Check, check, check. Hello, hello. Hey, welcome back to No Agenda. Check, check, check. Hello, hello. Hey, welcome back to No Agenda. Hey, hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the No Agenda show. This was a weekly live stream that I sort of let slip a little bit, and I'm picking that back up. Mostly where we left off. One second, I'm just going to adjust a few things here. Let's see. All right, I'm using a new chat window, so hopefully I'll see people's comments here. But so let's dig into what this is all about. So, maybe 6 months ago or something like that, I was hosting recordings with different artists, different creators, different entrepreneurs who really were people that I've admired in different spaces online. They were all people who were essentially building their own path, doing something that I thought was pretty interesting. And the reason it was called No Agenda was because there's no real message that we're trying to get across. We're just trying to host discussions that you might not have elsewhere. Discussions that it's not like a TED Talk. It's not like this giant prepared thing. It's more what's going on when you're actually creating a new project. What's going on when you're actually putting together the pieces of something new. Because I think we're at a really interesting time for our careers in general. Technology cycles are just moving faster and faster and faster, and that means roles in companies and tracks that used to be able to join in companies, they're evolving much quicker. So maybe this is something that you're feeling a little bit too in your job or your career, is that what's expected of you is changing very rapidly. And so I feel like we're not really having that conversation. And so this is sort of the forum to do that. So every week I'm going to be hosting different artists and creators in sort of this like forum format, I guess, where people are able to ask questions and just learn from other people who are taking risks in their career. I think that's the biggest, most interesting sort of opportunity, is as we all are uniquely building our own kind of career path, because things are changing so quickly. The question is, how do you figure out for yourself what you need to make things work based on your skill set, based on your background, based on your passion, based on your interests. And we have so many different opportunities, but that process is pretty exhausting. The process of continually figuring out, what am I going to do next? And not only that, what are the skills I need to do that? Who are the people I need to meet to be able to do that? And I think that's it's a new thing that we have to overcome. So anyways, this is a space to have discussions about the passions and interests and skills that you have and how to make those work for your career, or maybe just your life. Maybe you just want to have a side project or something like that, a side project that fulfills you on the weekends. I know plenty of people who their podcast or their side project on the weekends opens up all of these other doors for themselves in their career. So I'll be bringing on people every week. If you've tuned in the past, you kind of know what the deal is. It's going to be a creator on screen. I'll probably be with them. We're going to have the browser up like this so you can poke around and see different stuff that they're working on. This is a company that I'm hoping to have host on the show called Thing Testing, which is this really fun side project of, I'm forgetting her name right now, Jenny, who I believe is in the UK, who started essentially just reviewing different products on Instagram. Like she would just buy all these different D2C products and then review them. And she built such a following around this site, around these different reviews, that she's actually pursuing it full time. So people like that, people with really interesting side projects that have figured out, I have these different interests, I have these different skills. How do I leverage them so that I can build a career in a changing sort of future? So that's the idea. The Slack sort of element is the sort of offline discussion, if you will. So these calls on a regular basis, the video streams, those are kind of like the online sync where we can all discuss what's going on. But then offline on the Slack group, that's the asynchronous, where you can get to it whenever you have time. So I'm gonna let me check out my chat. I'm still working. I'm using Restream, which I saw Justin Jackson using. And hopefully the music and the sound of my microphone is coming through okay. So I'll start over real quick. So every week I'm gonna be hosting discussions with interesting entrepreneurs, creators, founders. The premise is not to teach anything, it's to have a discussion and to look at the behind the scenes of how some of their projects actually came to life. What were the drafts? What were the early inspirations? What tools did they use? And I'm going to have a discussion with these different founders on a regular basis. That'll be the sync for the community to hang out, ask questions, and feel like you're a part of the conversation too, because you are. But then offline in a Slack group, we're going to be able to discuss further, share links. That's a place to get feedback on your own ideas, share your own drafts. So it's kind of this rhythm that I'm hoping to sort of set up as far as this conversation goes. And the conversation is really, if you're this type of person, if you're the type of person who has many different interests, who doesn't feel like they just fit into one role or one career track, and who wants to express themselves in many different ways. Maybe you're a programmer by day, but on the weekends you like to bake bread and you want to start a blog or community or bakery. So it's kind of a place to allow these natural interests and passions to grow by being around other people who have that similar tendency. And, that's the sort of tendency that I have myself. So scratch my own itch here. There'll be some email communication, some other kind of messaging recaps from different conversations that happen. But that's sort of the general premise. And I'm going to dig into some other stuff I'm sort of seeing. So trend-wise, one thing I wanted to do that I thought was sort of fun and interesting was just get a pulse from people. I don't have that many votes, just 7 votes right now, but on what people need most right now. And I think that's an interesting question. Like in the developed world, if you're somebody who's looking to develop your career, if you're someone who's looking to grow, which do you need more of most? Is it time and space? Or do you have too many meetings, too many distractions? Are you unable to get to the things that you want to because you simply just don't feel like you have the time? Is it community? Is it people? If you had a scene of people who were able to support you in the work that you do, would that be the biggest benefit? Or is it skills? Do you need to learn, do you need to pick up some type of new skill set that's going to help you develop in your career. And this is a really small sample set, and I probably have a biased Twitter following. Let me refresh it and see if there's any more now. But I just thought it was pretty interesting to see that nobody picked skill. Right now it's 8 votes, so still not a ton. I can share this in the Slack or in the Twitch stream. But yeah, pretty interesting that nobody's picking skills or tools. I think that we're all sort of recognizing now that we need to be self-educated. We have incredible access to education through the internet, and obviously the general sort of education system is maybe decreasing in importance in some ways. So what do people need? This would sort of be my thesis as well, is right now at least is reflective of that, is that for sure the distractions are a big deal. Being addicted to your phone, being addicted to Twitter, being addicted to Instagram or scrolling through feeds sort of mindlessly instead of actually consuming something that matters. I think that's a big problem. And so people feel like they need space. They need space and time to work, to get stuff done. They don't need so many meetings. Beyond that, I think everybody's sort of lacking this connection, this feeling of like, do I have a group of people who's here to support me? And I think that's a tough question if people really think about that. Because we've got coworkers, or we've got maybe old friends from back home or something. But when it comes to really having a crew of people that sort of have your back, I think that's the thing that people feel the biggest sense of lack with right now, which is very interesting considering we're sort of in this social media era. You'd think that everybody is more connected, and it's just it doesn't seem to be the case. And so that's why a place to have discussions when you're ready for it. I made sure in my email to sort of add the anonymous lurking option, because some people are more introverted and they prefer anonymity, or they prefer to just consume a bit more, and that's like their method of learning, connecting, and maybe they feel connected just by participating. There's other people who want to take control and jump into the conversation and want to be involved. So there's something for everybody there, ideally. But yeah, skills and tools are abundant. Time is the most scarce resource you have. We all could use a little bit more of it. We could all be a little bit less distracted. But this feeling of being connected to a community of people who share in your interests and support where you're heading next, that's the thing that I think is most interesting to focus on right now in terms of part of my time, because it's the thing that people are sort of lacking. So that's the test. If you're tuning in now or later, and you can share in comments or anything like that if you'd like. I'm going to see if I sent this out appropriately. I'm just checking my email quick here. So Creative Caffeine, how is this different? Well, Creative Caffeine is very much, that's like an internal dialogue, and there's a discussion that happens for sure. But I'd say that it's a bit more internally focused. It's a bit more something to reflect on. It's like you can read it in your own time, and you can think about it for a little while before you jump into your own work. So it's more like meditative and solo, I suppose. But this forum, this sort of direction is about sort of connecting. It's about other people and actually engaging with someone, not just consuming. And so that's why I'm going to be working on kind of different tools for that purpose. You've probably heard me riff on this enough now. So what other trends are sort of happening? So the first thing is that we have enough tools. We could be less distracted, and we, more than anything, especially for people who are building their own path, need support and community. Other things that I'm seeing in terms of trends, and this is something I'll be asking guests in the future as well. Other things I'm seeing in terms of trends, definitely seeing a lot of these little mini micro communities pop up, and that was part of my inspiration. Part of this community called MakerPad, which is by Ben Tossell. It's a like no code. It's a no code community, which means it's about building applications, websites, tools without code. And he's got all types of tutorials on here, templates, basically like anything you want to build. If you're not a programmer and you've been interested in building something, that's what like Ben's whole thing is. And it's really cool to see this vertical emerge where it's like, oh, if you need a crew or a scene to get support for doing this, here's your opportunity. Here's your community. They have a Slack group. They have discounts. And it's this niche. I think that's the thing that is really going on, is this sort of nichification, I guess, of private communities, whereas the original social media sites all were built off of scale. How many connections can you have? LinkedIn was all about get 500 plus connections so you look great. But if you don't actually connect with any of those people and you don't actually know them, then, what's the point? So we're seeing these kind of niche communities emerge. Now, the second one I brought up was this thing testing by Jenny, and I don't know her last name, but she had this really great Instagram that I'll pull up right now. Jenny Gillender. So she just opened up her own community, which is awesome. And she had really built a lot of community kind of around this. Like, there's this whole D2C movement. So there's all these different brands that are popping up. Let me scroll. These like well-designed, home good type brands. So Jenny went first. She said, I'm just going to start taking photos and reviewing these one at a time, so which ones are real, which ones are cool, which ones live up to the hype, and which ones don't. Although I think it's a pretty positive channel. Change the track here. Anyway, so yeah, she's documenting. She kind of went first and is documenting all these different products, starting with AirPods. So all these different beautifully designed products she's just documenting. And what was really interesting is how I think people started, resonating with her approach. And there's probably some site that's getting paid, $20 for some intern to type up reviews of these type of products. But Jenny's real. She's, upfront, and she's consistent. She kind of keeps showing up with new little, from me, a letter from me. So here's her little blurb. And it's just commentary. And there's a certain group of people that want to be a part of that specific niche. And so now she's opening up a community. Become a thing testing close friend. I want to become a thing testing close friend. You just want to be a part of it. That's what I think is so cool. Let me pull up another. I haven't checked out the Dissect podcast website in a long time, but I imagine that they also have some type of community thing going on. And if they don't, he totally could. And it's missed opportunity. So podcasts, that's another thing people are, sorry, I'm wanting other types of sounds coming out. Podcasts, another great area for community. You've got people who are listening on a consistent basis to these different voices all the time, and you sort of fall in love with the person. And I think that's actually really what I'm trying to get at here is with MakerPad, you've got Ben leading the charge, Ben Tossell, to build a community, and people care about him and they want to be closer to other people like him and other people like them to participate in something. And for Ben, it's this no-code movement. For Jenny, she's covering these different D2C products, and she loves discussing the brand, what's hot. It's a place for people to hang out and talk about what's new, right? It's always about the new sort of D2C thing coming out and what's the conversation going to be and who finds it first. And that's what is really interesting about Jenny's community. And a podcast, same thing. You listen to this person so much that you're a fan of them. So this is like the opportunity I think that a lot of people have today, which is if you're an individual, you actually don't have to worry just yet about creating this giant brand, you know. It can be just you, and people will buy into it because of you, which is maybe hard for some people to sort of get into because it just feels like uncomfortable. But in the beginning, it's about the person, and then it can transition into a brand or something like that. So in the beginning, it's about Jenny. In the beginning, it's about Ben. In the beginning, it's about Kyle Kushner, I think is his name. And it's funny you even remember these people's names. And then it can grow, and then it can turn into something bigger. And are you bringing together the right type of people? Are you specific about who it's for and who it's not for? I'm going to refresh this, see if there's more votes, if my ideas were validated. Still only 8 votes. So that's a trend that's happening, and I think it's for good because we're moving away from the mass social networks into private communities that give you support in the place you're wanting to head into and allow you to have the discussion that you're hoping to have. So that brings me back around again now to No Agenda, which is going to be upcoming videos and live streams. And really, it's about the people. It's about, so yeah, we're going to talk about the projects and the art and the business that they make, but it's going to be about the person. It's going to be about what are they passionate about? What are they interested in? What are they seeing in terms of where the future is headed? What inspiration did they take that built on itself, eventually becoming, what the project that we're looking at today is? Reset my video here because I think I got frozen. But so I think that's the interesting opportunities, connecting with people. Now, from the creator side, if you're an artist, if you're someone making something, recognizing that is what people want, is they want to see you talking about your passion. They want to see you talking about the product from the ground up, from all the things that went into it, from the small details that you picked up along the way. Like, those are the things that other people want to hear too. So I think we actually have this nice opportunity where you've got creators in a space where private communities forming around people and discussions are what people are needing and wanting right now. You've got consumers who they want to be a part of a discussion they can't have access to, or that their friends aren't having, or that they can't find anywhere else. And these creators are standing up and saying, here's a space to do that. So I guess that's what I'm trying to do as well. And I think we've already been doing that with the Creative Caffeine newsletter. I've already been doing that some here on the No Agenda streams, but it's just about formalizing that a little bit more and getting more specific about what that conversation is. And I think that's the thing that is a little bit different for me now is with Creative Caffeine, it's such an internal sort of focus thing that we're discussing, we're pondering our own creative impulses and interests, and how we best get our expression out of ourselves, our art into the world. But No Agenda is more like for a specific type of person, for somebody who has a tendency to work on too many different things, for the type of person who doesn't want to just fit into a specific career track and wants to explore with today's tools in a way that lets them have a side hustle, have a podcast, have a full-time gig, but then do something else with their time because they have other interests and passions. For those people, it's tough to be that person, but it's also a really good opportunity, and it's a really good time to be that person because of the amount of tools and leverage that you have, because the internet scales so well. So this conversation, and Creative Caffeine is a different one. This conversation, this No Agenda, this stream, it's for that type of person. It's for a discussion about what that is like and the opportunities available and the tools available. And that's going to happen synced up here on video and also asynchronous in a Slack. I wrote recently about how I felt like video is going to be just such a big opportunity for people. And I'm standing by that in terms of my actions here. Like, I think we're still underutilizing audio and video. And so I also just want to expand communication mediums beyond email into video, into audio, because it lets people connect in different ways. People have comments, feel free to throw them in. Otherwise, I will keep talking about what I'm talking about, which I'm happy to do. So let's get to another sort of trend that I'm that I'm seeing here, and I'll connect kind of all the dots. So we've got this, for people who are just joining us, we've got what people need most. What do people need most? They need time and space to work. They need to be less distracted, but they also need connection and community, and really the skills and the tools, which is what's interesting, is less important. People don't need the education as much as they need the support and the place to have the discussion that they're not able to have. And so this community is about a discussion. It's about bringing in artists, not to give a TED Talk, but to lead a discussion about how they've figured out through personal and self-discovery to develop work that makes an impact, that matters, that lets them build a unique career. Now, that might be they work full-time somewhere, and they have a side project that they do on the weekends that is fulfilling, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe they have a bunch of different kind of gigs that they compile together as a career. So that's sort of the first thing that's happening. The second thing that's happening is we're seeing niche communities form outside of the big social conglomerates. So it's no longer about LinkedIn. It's no longer about having 500 followers and whatever. It's, oh, I want to join this small community, this niche community of people around a specific idea. I'm in MakerPad, which is a no-code community. Ben Tossell has done a great job organizing that, and we're going to see more of these sort of start. I think this community that I'm starting here, or like this like growth from Creative Caffeine, is going to be another interesting community like that. So Ben kind of hosts a discussion about no code and he brings together those type of people. Then you've got Jenny hosting a discussion about D2C brands. You've got podcasts hosting a discussion about music. So now let me get to, sorry, I'm using tweets to kind of like explain this, but let me get to like the third sort of narrative or like arc that is leading me to sort of get interested in this, which is we had this rise of all these direct-to-consumer brands that were really coming on the scene and sort of becoming popular because they had cool design, because they had hip agencies brand their products. So all the old products that were lame, Dyson actually was the first company to do this. Dyson took the vacuum cleaner and was like, hey, what if we made a vacuum cleaner but like sick? Would people buy that? And then people bought that. And now we're seeing it in every industry. Now it's like designer trash bags or like designer paper clips or whatever it is. And they all have these brands that make them feel cool, right? So people want to be a part of it. They want to buy it because it feels cool to have this really hip trash bag or whatever it is. And I like some of those brands too. I'm not dogging on it. This Think Testing thing is all about those brands. These Windex bottles are cool. But I don't think it's going to last. I think it will get less fulfilling more and more over time to purchase things that simply have cool design just to be a thing with cool design. And what we're missing is these impact and mission-driven companies like a Patagonia that really are walking the walk on something much bigger than just design. So you can status signal with design, of course. You can hire a great agency and make the product look cool, but is there anything there? Like, is there anything behind that actually matters, that is something that I want to be a part of? And I think that's like really what we're missing, and what's rare. And that's what I'm excited about with sort of the next, I guess, generation of brands and companies. And so if we tie off all these things together, if people want to be more connected, if people want to be a part of a discussion they can't have anywhere else, if people are looking to develop their own skills, their own interests, and they want to actually have an impact and mission, like this feels like a very long-standing, sort of satisfying direction to pursue. So helping people connect, leading a niche discussion, having an impact and a mission that is beyond the flash or the status of the design or what you're trying to signal, but actually having like some substance there. I think that's another really interesting thing that takes longer to build. I think brands that really have a mission or a strong sense of themselves, take a long time. They also take someone with a strong voice who can continually remind people that this is why they exist. And that's what Patagonia does so well. They always remind their consumers why we exist. And they break into interesting conversations, not by being controversial, but by knowing why they exist. And they just state it again. And suddenly people are they love them. So the road to extinction is paved with good intentions. Like, they're just very powerful in terms of how they approach leading a conversation. Natural, misunderstood, legal. And this is about their hemp line of clothing. Hemp is misunderstood. It's not smokable. People don't really totally get what it's for, what it's about. So this strong voice is needed for everything we've been discussing. And that's why I like mad respect to people like Ben, Tyler, who he works with at Earnest Capital. Like, having something to say is very much in demand and very much difficult. Having something to say that you follow through on from a product perspective is even harder. But those are the brands that we're going to care about in 5-10 years. And that's why it's a slightly harder path. And it takes a lot of self sort of understanding and self-discovery as well. I mean, I think that's part of the hope, I think, as well for, I guess for this discussion, is that like there is this role for self-discovery. There is this role for personal development, because unless you really are comfortable sort of with yourself, unless you know what you want, then how can you have a strong voice to lead a discussion? Then how can you follow through or have the grit to follow through? So that's, I think in kind of a nutshell, the premise behind what I'm working towards. And so if you're somebody who is interested in that type of discussion, if this like resonates with you, get in touch. We'll be having offline discussions, like I said, on Slack. That's asynchronous. We'll be having community discussions. And yeah, we can just riff now. I kind of gave my pitch here. I think Brandless brand is peak D2C branding. Helvetica aesthetic for everything. Clean trash bags is almost over. I do think that packaging presents an interesting way to diversify companies that can ship with less plastic, offer products that can be refilled. Yeah, so to me, the idea of having the differentiated packaging as a way to signal your mission and your real brand and like why you exist, like that's cool, because it means like, especially if it was a more expensive choice or something, like there's a clothing company that I like that switched to packaging that's all natural and so it can be biodegradable, and it was more expensive for them, and they emailed everyone saying like, hey, our prices are going to go up a bit because it's going to cost more for us to use this packaging, but that's the right thing to do. And it's so funny that I've been thinking about having conversations with friends on is like, sometimes the thing that you should be doing as a brand or as a company is literally just the thing that is so simple that you should do, that you just do it because like that's the way that it should be done. So if you have like this crazy wasteful process, and you walk in and you're maybe a new hire at this company, it's like, hey, why are like this just like, it's kind of like recycling. Like it's just the right thing to do. It just makes sense. It just like helps everyone else. So I think that's like, people are sort of missing this simplicity you can have from a strategic point of view when you just do the right thing and like do things the way that it just should be done. Instead, we get really complicated and we try to like weave together a narrative. That's really interesting, is like brands that are trying to be something they're not, or they're trying to present themselves as something like H&M. H&M probably spends crazy amounts of money trying to weave together a narrative that they're not like a wasteful clothing company or whatever. And I get that like they're not necessarily going to be able to change on a dime, but it just like, I guess to me, the right thing, the thing that makes sense also is where the consumer is headed. So it's just like, why not just like cut through the bullshit basically, and just do the thing that's the right thing to do, because it's better for everyone, because customers love us more, because now things are simple and we're not projecting this image that's fake. So I love Patagonia for their radical approach to that, and their like radical notion of like, we're going to speak our mind and we have a North Star and a truth, and we're going to broach conversations that other people are hiding from having. That's really the power I think that Patagonia has. You'll see when they do PR, they're really great at kicking off a conversation that everyone else has been avoiding. And it's like the elephant in the room, and that could be sustainability with like climate change. But it's like, whatever the elephant in the room is, if you have someone who's strong enough just to stand up and ask a dumb question, or be like, I just feel like this is like the right way of doing things, I think brands will put themselves in a position for better longevity. And again, I think that's the interesting thing. people have more comments. I'm curious. The other thing that makes me think is just this sort of goes hand in hand with not thinking about mass. Like in some way, scale is sort of the enemy of what we're discussing, because it's just really hard to hit scale and still follow through with some of these values. So scale definitely makes it tough. But yeah, it's a good point. Give you guys some Zen views here. Thanks for tuning in and listening. If you're watching after the fact, thanks for watching after the fact. And you can always email me if you have any follow-up thoughts. There were some links in the email today as well. Just sharing about ways to get involved so that you can have more discussions like this. And in the future, it'll be other people, not just me on here. I'll be bringing in some other artists and entrepreneurs, founders. I hope the stream is coming through okay, because it looks like it's freezing. Anyways, so that's the theme this week. Niche communities, people having the strength to lead a discussion, and using really simple ways of leading forward to just open up conversations. I already showed this, but just this Patagonia, I think this is like brilliant copywriting here. Natural, misunderstood, and legal. So that was an elephant in the room. What's hemp? Is it weed? Is it going to destroy the country? Whatever people are thinking, they go there first. Let's see what this cleanest line thing is about. I feel like I use Patagonia pretty often as a... Yeah, whose planet? Our planet. What's a fish eater to do? You know, talking about these tough issues, because there are some tough issues. I mean, maybe you care about the environment, but you realize that eating meat, even though you love it, is counter to that. So these paradoxes and these more nuanced and complex issues, it's good to have other people to discuss that with, and also have a strong voice that has an opinion, so that it helps you figure out what your own sort of opinion is on something. About it for today. I'll leave it open to any other comments. Hopefully I'm coming through okay. All right. I will catch you back next time with another session. Next time with someone else talking to some people this week about having them jump on, and should be fun. Have an awesome rest of your afternoon, your morning, whenever you're tuning in. Leave this up for a minute and then I'll let you go. Later.